Everybody, you've seen what is going on with Living on Music right now over the next about the next week or so. And what we're doing is we are getting ready for the Cancer Can Rock Nova Music Fest on July 10th up at 868 Estate Vineyards. I've talked to a couple of people that are playing there, and look who I've got here. If you guys know local music, you know somebody who is just rising fast and has been for a while. Chris Timbers, welcome to Living on Music, man.
Thanks for having me. Good to be here.
It's great to see you. We've talked a little bit because of our connection for July 10th. I'll be emceeing the event. I can't wait to do that. I've also playing an opening set with my duo partner. The Greek and the Freak is my duo. We're doing right. It's a little opening set, and then look what look what comes up. Juliet, Gary Smallwood, Eric Scott, 19th Street, Tommy Gann, Todd Wright. What an amazing lineup.
Yeah.
How does that make you?
Marianne Redmond too, right?
Marianne Redmond was added from this one, and I can't wait to have her on there too. What does it mean to you, man? You play a lot of live gigs. You're really rocking out there right now, especially. But what does it make you feel to do something with Jim Ebert and Cancer Can Rock?
Well, man, it's funny because I've reached out to Jim a couple times over the past years, and I've seen his lineup for these events. I'm like, Jim, when are you gonna invite me, man?
That's great. Oh well, perfect. Yeah,
kind of got on him a little bit. He's like, what? I haven't invited. So he got me on this, and I love Jim. He's a good friend.
Yeah.
He's a great producer and engineer, and the whole cancer thing. My brother passed away from cancer, so
wow.
It's at home with that as well. So it's a great cause, and I'm looking forward to it, and I'm glad Jimmy reached out to me to do it.
Yeah, I'm really excited you're there. You're doing the closing set, so you'll be there with the heat of the moment and the crowd. Hopefully, we're going to get people out there. The weather is always an interesting thing in the Mid-Atlantic, as you well know, playing a lot of outside gigs. But how exciting it is! I can't wait to talk a little bit. I've talked to a lot of people. I've had Jim on the show 5 times, and we've had people that have gone through his situation, and also some of the Jenny Langer, some of the biggest musicians around have gone through it too. And it's just an amazing experience for them while they're going through the hell and high water of cancer, that they're able to go into a studio and play. And I know that means a lot to you as a musician to see, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I know it must have been tough. I know Jim it was a long battle for him, but he got through it and he did it. And that's great that he can tell his story,
Yeah.
And,
Yeah, it's really exciting, and we're all affected by it. I have a dear friend who just went through a serious physical situation, who edits this show because of cancer. And also we lost Allie Langhorst, who was a real sweet lady. Allie, right? Yeah. She's always around with Bill and kicked it one time, and then it came back and got her. And it's just so anyway, that's going to be an amazing day. But look, you are coming out of a pandemic. We're all trying to get the hell out of it. It keeps biting people. I just had COVID for about a week, a couple of weeks ago, and it hit me a little hard, but not bad. I've been double vaxxed and double boosted, so it didn't knock me down on the floor. But anyway, as a musician, as somebody who is really on a rise and doing wonderfully, how did the last 2 years affect you, and how do you feel now coming out of this thing a little bit?
How did it affect me? Well, I mean, when it hit, it was, I guess, late spring, and we were doing a lot of outdoor shows. So that at that point, it really didn't affect us too much. We were still playing a lot and practicing social distancing outside or whatever.
Right.
And still playing quite a bit. It wasn't until fall when things sort of moved inside that it came to a screeching halt for us. I mean, pretty much. We had a few lingering gigs that we do, but it was people weren't going out, and but on the positive side of that, we recorded this album and it allowed me to kind of dig into Logic and the home studio that I've had for years and never used, and finally get in there and learn it and use it, and I'll, you know, hey Jim, I promise I'll come to your studio one day, but I'm able to record at home now too.
Oh, that's great. And this has got to get on. Is that what you're talking about, Chris?
Yeah, got to get on.
Yeah, that's great. That's great that got out there. Was that supposed to be released earlier on as the pandemic came out, or did it time out to just come out then?
Yeah, it was supposed to be released earlier on, and we kept having to kick it back. And like I said, it was us like shooting, me recording tracks, shooting it to my bass player, and him shooting it to our drummer, which, you know, is everyone from Darren Blessman to Rodney to my old drummer from Less Traveled, Bruce Guttridge in Nashville.
Right.
So I mean, yeah. So it was a lot of work, but it was a great learning experience for us too.
That is spectacular. And you know, it seems like music has been a rising star for you. After a tough time, you went away for a while and you were out of touch, and you came back, and it seemed that experience gave you some kind of incentive to really kick music back in. You've been a music guy since a kid. You got a guitar at 9. You sang at the gospel church, which I love that history, and that's how you got some of that, because your dad, I mean, was a gospel singer. Is that true?
Yeah, my dad was traveling. He was in a band, the Middleburg Harmonizers, which would tour around Virginia, Maryland. And I was a kid, you know. I mean, 5, 6, 7, 8 years old, and I would travel around with him. And Brian Fox at the time, my cousin was playing with him. He was a teenager.
Oh.
So it was him and my dad and Brian's dad, Fred Fox, and a couple other guys. And they were all it was like going to, you know, because they'd all dress in the same suits. And it was almost like going to like a Temptation show or something like that.
Right.
And the harmonies and you know, with the live band. And it was really cool. So I'd go there and help them set up and then just sit back and kind of watch. But yeah, it's definitely a huge influence when I was young and got me into music.
Yeah, I mean, you had guitar lessons in elementary school. You played in the public schools. You headed off to Fairmont State University, and your intention was to be a veterinarian.
Yeah.
Is that true? Was that real?
That's true. Yeah, that was my plan.
That's not an easy thing to have an intention to do. I mean, that's like being a doctor. In fact, we just lost a dog we've had for 12 years. We lost 3 weeks ago, and my heart is still breaking. But the veterinarian got us through the pain of putting Atticus down. But that is pretty interesting. You decided to pause that. Why? Because music just grabbed you back and said, "Come to me."
It really did. And you know, when you speak about you losing an animal too, or your dog or whatever, it's like that was my hardest time. And I'm a softie when it comes to animals. I really am. I mean, like the ASPA commercials, I have to turn the channel. I'm like,
I agree. And I'm still I got a card from the veterinarians 2 days ago that was from all of the doctors and all of the clinicians saying, "We're so sorry for your loss." And I'm like, I kind of had this feeling a little better about it, but they were so sweet. Anyway, you decided to put that interest aside and get back to music, and, you know, return to Loudon in the early 90s, right?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, and it was all because it's hard for me to handle putting all the, you know, seeing all the dogs put down and this and that. But yeah, music was definitely, when I went to Fairmont, that's when I started. I think I played the first time I ever played out was in a bar in Fairmont with a guy who a friend of mine at the time. Yeah, and and it just that feeling that stuck with me, and I didn't go back to college after that. Yeah, I got home, hooked up with Jake Phillips. Who, the other member of Less Traveled.
And that Less Traveled seemed to be a wonderful ride for at least 10 years or so, right?
Yeah, it was. I mean, it was about almost 10 years. It was 7 years. And then by the last 4 with Bruce Guttridge and Gary Granger on bass was just like, that was amazing.
Right. And you started to gain some recognition as a songwriter around that time. And landed an endorsement with that Canadian company, the guitar company. Seemed like, and then it was time for you. It seemed you said, I'm striking out on my own and I'm going to one of my favorite places on earth. I grew up 45 minutes away from it.
Oh, really?
New York City. Took the train in at 16 to see Led Zeppelin, and at 16, and
wow.
that was And my mother was an actress, so we go to Broadway. I mean, New York City is part of my world. You decided, what was the impetus to go there of all places, Chris? From the music.
I fell in love with New York when we started playing up there. When Less Travel was playing up there, we didn't play up there all the time, but the few times that we did play up there, I just fell in love with that city.
Right.
And and I said, if things, if they work out, if they don't work out with Less Travel, I was like, at some point I'm living in this city.
Right.
And when we decided to part ways, I didn't stick around long. I mean, I think maybe 2 months in Loudon, I was on my way.
Right. You did become a standout though in Brooklyn.
Brooklyn.
I mean, other places too, but the Brooklyn music scene, man. I mean, that's a neat place to find a kind of a position in.
Yeah, and it still is. Like my band's starting to play up there quite a bit now, and
wow, yeah. And
just this last time in Manhattan, actually, it's and New York crowds, they can be tough, man, because they don't know you, and they're trying to figure out how good you are, and if they want to stay because they know right down the street there's the Blue Note or right. some other place that they can just walk to and see a great band.
Right.
So this last time we played up there, which was our second time in Manhattan, we really stuck it to them, and the crowd loved it, and we had a great applause, and we got them, and it felt really good to come off the stage in New York this past time with that sort of crowd, response. And now I'm seeing it in my Spotify, like that's right. Our biggest city now in my Spotify following.
Yes.
Which is really good thing.
Yeah, that's fantastic. That's exactly what you want right now too. And again, things were accelerating. You got hit kind of hard in the legal world. That kind of gave you a chance to reflect, kind of regroup and
down.
and then say, what did you say? You thought to yourself after seeing that room full of drums and guitars over there, I can do this. But you made it, man. Yeah, you've accelerated back. So that had to be a tough experience, as well as something that motivated you on.
Yeah, it was absolutely, it was definitely a tough time. You know what I mean? I'm not gonna, no ifs, ands, or buts about it. Going away to prison is no fun at all.
Right.
But the flip side of that is, I was able to really dig into my writing, and I didn't know that they had rooms with, music rooms and some of these institutions, which was,
wow, that
was my saving grace,
Oh, well, and
that's
that's incredible, Chris. I love the fact that you took a time that could have knocked you down further, and basically a renewed sense of purpose, direction, and look at now. When did the solo album come out? How far after you got out of there?
Well, I told myself I'd release it, and I was out in 16. I told myself I'd release it in 17, and that's what I did. Oh. And all the songs from the album were written while I was away. It's funny because I tell people stories about some of these songs, and I'll have to do it. I want to do a storyteller one day. Maybe you can get involved with that. And we can
I'd love to.
Something out.
Yes.
Because the story behind some of these songs they're kind of funny because, it's like I'm just making them up in my head. They're like, who are you talking about in these stories? I was just using different people as muses because, you're away. So you're just making these stories. They're like, that's not a personal. I was like, well, maybe this one is, but a little bit of it. But a lot of times I'm just, I was just going into my head and just making up these stories about these relationships or whatever, because, I didn't have one anymore.
Right. Exactly. And that's what people like you can grow and prosper and again, keep going by writing and by letting the emotions and the sense of what's in here come out in your music.
You know what else helped? The reading. A lot of reading.
Ooh.
That was I think that was major part in the change in my writing a little bit, because I never really read until I went away, and then I started reading so many books, like on just, I mean, you can imagine, from self-help to novels to there's this great Japanese writer, and I can't think of his name right now, that I'll remember to bring that up when I see you. But
please,
a friend of mine was sending me his books and his series of books, and they were really just take you out there. You know, I mean, I would read that stuff and it would just to take me to another plane. You know, and it was so that was a big part of I think that helped me also with my writing and songwriting while I was away.
Oh, absolutely. You had a line that comes up on your website. It's nice to hear from you again now that the smoke is cleared from all the burning down of dreams throughout the years.
That song was written for that friend who was sending me those books.
Wow. Oh, perfect.
Yeah.
Oh, man. Well, Chris, I mean, look, you know, going from a toughest time in life to one of what seems to be a joyous time in life from you now. It seems that you've garnered a base of sorts, obviously, in this region. You're playing all over the place coming up. We have July 10th together again at Cancer Can Rock Nova Music Fest with, you know, just a tremendous lineup of people. You're going to be headlining at the end and closing it out. You know, I can't thank you enough for doing the show, and I can't be happy enough for you because it seems like you're accelerating and things are going forward. Anything else in the near future that people should know about Chris Timbers?
I would just say some shows. I mean, we have I made this video for one of my tracks, one of my singles called "Wake Me Up" that now has over 100,000 views on YouTube. Right, so that's positive. Our Spotify numbers are, I mean, things are really happening. So we're thrilled about that.
Great.
We have some shows like Pearl Street Warehouse coming up, and that's in August. But you'd have to check www.christimbers.com.
Yes.
I mean, check the there. Anyone who wants to find my calendar. I keep it updated. So
great.
Yeah.
That website is going to be below you the entire show we do here, so people can hopefully see it and go find you. But look, I can't wait to meet you in person. You know, again, what's been an amazing ride is the show, but obviously a lot of it's been all Zoom since the pandemic, and that's when I started it. And Scott Kurt was my first guest, who's a dear friend of mine, and I've had people. But Patty Reese is going to have her second appearance next week.
Nice.
It's been an amazing ride, and you have made it even more special by being on with me. And we will see each other in 2 weeks, a little less than 2 weeks at the Cancer Can Rock event, man. Thanks again for being on Living on Music with me.
Thank you so much, Steve. I really appreciate it, man. Appreciate it.
My pleasure. And we'll do this again sometime as time goes along, but we'll give each other a quick hug at the Cancer Can Rock again, everybody. It's July 10th.
I'll be chasing you around. Come here.
At 868 Estate Vineyards. We're gonna have a blast. And it's up there in Purcellville, you guys, on July 10th. You can get your tickets at cancercanrock.org/events. And what a lineup and what a day for Cancer Can Rock. Thanks again, Chris. We'll see you soon.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
All right, brother.